Thank you, Sabrina. Over to you.
Thanks, Olivia. Great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sabrina Klassen. I'm a senior associate at the Carbon Trust, and I'm very happy to welcome so many of you today to this briefing and networking event, which also marks the day phase 4 of the Industrial Energy Efficiency Accelerator, or the IEEA, opens for applications. More about this in a minute. Just first starting with some simple housekeeping announcements, as mentioned before, so please keep yourself on mute and camera turned off. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box throughout the presentations today. We have some time allocated towards the end of the event to go through as many of them as we can. My colleagues working in the background are monitoring the chat, so they will be able to direct the questions then to the relevant speaker. We hope we put together an informative event for you today. We want to introduce the IEA or refresh your knowledge of the IEA for those already familiar with the program. Our aim is to ensure you know whether your project idea is suitable to apply to the program, and if so, how to go about it, as well as present a little bit more insights and benefits of taking part. So today is particularly aimed at technology developers seeking funding to demonstrate their new technology, and industrial companies who want to get ahead of the game and be the first to take advantage of those new technologies and all the learnings that come with it for your own decarbonization or net zero journey. So before diving into the program a little further, just want to introduce the agenda of today. So we'll start with an introduction to the program, followed by a presentation by BEIS about their net zero innovation portfolio, where the IEA sits within. We'll talk then a little bit more about the scope and the eligibility of the program and what it means to take part. We'll share some insights and learnings about how you can put together a good application. So share some of the learnings we have seen over time. Talk about the benefits of the IEA, and we'll also have a case study. So we'll hear from 2 companies that are already taking part in the IEA. I'm going to hear from them why they have participated, what they got out of it. And yeah, so then followed by the Q&A session. So again, if you have any questions throughout the day, just put them in the chat and we will have then some time allocated to go through them. And we will close today with an overview and more insights into all the networking opportunities we have put together for you. So if you're looking to partner up with different organizations, we'll provide some info on how we can support you on this. So for innovators and industrial sites that are interested in taking part in the IEA, we encourage you to sign up to our free networking platform using the link you can see on the slide, and we'll also put the same link into the chat. So when you click on it, you can register on the platform. You can fill in an Ask Me About box, so it's easier for companies to see why they may want to contact you. And once you're registered to the platform, sorry, it should come next. Once you have registered to the platform, you will be able to go through and see all the other companies that have signed up and see if you want to contact them, which is possible through direct messages through the platform. And you can also set up one-to-one meetings with them. You will be able to mark in your calendar on the platform when you are free, so easier to coordinate between all of you. So we're now going to move on to a quick introduction or refresher on what the IEA is. So the program is funded by BEIS and delivered by the Carbon Trust together with our partners from Jacobs and KTN. The Carbon Trust provides all the overall program management and marketing. Jacobs support with all technical aspects, such as during the application process and then review of project progress and deliverables. And KTN are providing support with marketing, generating project ideas, and then also with results dissemination. So the IEA is a competition to fund quality demonstration projects in industry with a strong replication potential. So it supports the demonstration of novel energy and or resource efficiency technologies at UK industrial sites. So what's the purpose of the IEA? Fundamentally, the program is all about increasing the uptake of new technologies by industry. So it's famously difficult to persuade an industrial site manager to install something new, which potentially risks their production. So we talk about the race to be second here when it comes to using improved technology. So the IEA comes in and helps to de-risk the first UK implementation of such a new technology and at an industrial site. So the aim is to introduce energy or resource efficiency technologies to demonstrate and measure the savings that can be achieved. So in order to encourage wider replication once the project hopefully proves to work. So £8 million in grant funding have been made available by BEIS over 4 years. So this covers phase 3 and 4. And to support projects with the aim then to generate carbon savings, but also help make the UK industry and supply chains more competitive. So far, BEIS have supported 16 projects over the past 4 years and already awarded around £8 million. So this refers to phase 1 and 2 here on the slide. So phases 1 and 2 have been really successful, and most of these projects have now completed. Some had to be extended due to the impacts of the pandemic and supply chain disruptions. In their case studies are still in preparation. All other case studies and description of the projects we have been supporting, you'll find on the IEA website. So based on our analysis, the industry-wide adoption of these technologies could lead to around 10 million tons of cumulative carbon savings by 2031. So we can see the IEA's big potential to drive the overall industrial decarbonization. So the application window of phase 3 has ended earlier this year, and the selected projects are currently under contracting. And the next round of funding, so what we refer to as phase 4, has opened today and will be open until early September. In phase 1 and 2, so the projects that have already, or like I have now completed, we've already seen an amazing breadth of both technologies and sectors. So really happy with this. So many of the supported technologies are also applicable cross-sector. They vary quite a bit. So we had quite different kinds of projects. So just to give a few examples, they vary from processing animal byproducts to avoid rendering, in dewatering sewage sludge using a big screw press, to some really high-tech solutions like applying graphene oxide nanocoatings to filtration systems to allow the cleaning and recycling of waste hot water in an industrial laundry. And even though the IEA is a UK-wide program, the projects supported under phase 1 and 2 have all seemed to have focus on England. So with the next phases, would be great to see also more successful projects taking place in Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. And yeah, as mentioned before, phase 3 of the IEA has closed earlier this year, and the assessment panel has selected the winners. And I'm delighted to say that we again managed to have cover a wide range of sectors and technologies. You can see some examples here on the slide. And once the contracting has been concluded with those successful projects, we're looking forward to present the successful companies and provide also like more detail about the projects and what they aim to do over the next years. And now for the next bit of today, I'm handing over to Tony Allen from BEIS. Tony is the head of industry and CCUS and will provide some insights into the BEIS net zero innovation portfolio, of which the IEA is part of. Tony, when you're there, over to you.
I'm here. Can you hear me? Sorry, my camera's moved.
Yes, I can hear you well.
Great. So good morning, everyone. I'd like to add my welcome to you to this morning's event. And as has just been said, I'm Tony Allen, and I head up the industry and CCUS team within the Science and Innovation for Climate and Energy Directorate, which I'll refer to as SICE throughout the presentation within BEIS. So next slide, please. Just like to start by highlighting the 4 priority areas which BEIS addresses. The first one is fighting coronavirus. BEIS ran and still runs the vaccine task force, which was instrumental in funding vaccine developments and other infrastructure elements within the UK. It has a role in enterprise in backing the long-term growth opportunities for the UK. It leads the government effort in tackling climate change and unleashes the science and engineering capabilities of the UK to become a superpower through the innovation theme. So it's the 2 lower themes on the chart here, net zero and innovation, which give us 3/4 of the net zero innovation portfolio, otherwise known as NZIP, which funds the work that BEIS does on IEEA and a variety of other programs. Next slide, please. Just want to start with a bit of background. In November of 2020, the Prime Minister launched the 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution, which creates conditions required for the private sector to invest in generating and growing new green industries. It mobilises £12 billion of public sector funding, which is expected to encourage a multiple of that in private sector funding to pursue these objectives. The key point of the 10-point plan that drives what we do within SICE is point 10, the green finance innovation. And everything we do on that, under that is intended to unleash innovation and develop new finance sources to develop the future green technologies which are going to be required to achieve net zero. Next slide, please. Last year, a number of strategy documents were published: the Industrial Decarbonisation Strategy, the UK Hydrogen Strategy, and the Net Zero Strategy. And fundamentally, these set out key ambitions and commitments which we're looking to work to with industry. Next slide, please. Just picking up a few key points from the Industrial Decarbonisation Strategy. This document sets out the ambitious targets to which we're all working to reduce emissions from industry by at least 2/3 by 2035 and by at least 90% by 2050, and also to develop resource efficiency and energy efficiency measures with the ambition of 11 million tonnes CO2 equivalent of annual emission reductions by 2035. And this is where the IEA programme comes into its own. Next slide, please. Another figure taken from the Industrial Decarbonisation Strategy, which I believe originates from the Committee for Climate Change. And what this really illustrates, that in the near term, one more mouse click, please. What this really illustrates in the near term is that the majority of the carbon abatement will come from resource efficiency or energy efficiency measures. It's not till later, sort of around about 2035, that the bigger change is due to increased use of electrification, hydrogen and carbon capture will start to come in and play their role. And with all these things, rapid change will not occur organically in a business as usual scenario. Intervention is needed. And it's that intervention which will help develop the innovative technologies which are needed to achieve the wider targets that have been set through the Industrial Decarbonisation Strategy. And the key point to make here is that it's the NZIP portfolio that supports this innovation process. Other BEIS funding sources support subsequent deployment. Next slide, please. So why is energy efficiency so important? I mean, the last slide shows it's got the biggest contribution to make in the short term, as other contributors are going to take significantly longer to develop. I think it probably goes without saying that the more you reduce your use, the less you'll need in future. So there's a circular dimension comes in here. It usually saves money rather than costs money. But on the flip side, it doesn't get the attention it deserves. All the attention seems to be grabbed by things like hydrogen and carbon capture, which get a lot of attention in the media, but energy efficiency is often easier, quicker, and cheaper to affect. And as we found from previous rounds of IEEA, there are still exciting, innovative technologies out there which need to be developed, and we'll hear a bit more about a few of those later on. Next slide, please. So to summarise the Net Zero Innovation Portfolio, it's £1 billion of funding running over the 4-year period, which ends in March 2025, and NZIP will support the development and the adaptation of low carbon technologies and systems across industry, power and the built environment. And the 10 shapes on the slide here show the sort of 10 thematic areas which are being run within SICE for NZIP, and they range from advanced nuclear with work on advanced modular reactions through to disruptive technologies with the Clean Growth Fund and many stops in between. But it's industry that we'll be talking about today. So if we can move to the next slide, please. I have on here some examples of some decarbonisation programs which are being run by BEIS. First one there, the Energy Entrepreneurs Fund, takes starting programs at projects rather at starting TRLs 3 to 8, and it's intended to aid the development and demonstration of state-of-the-art technologies, products and processes in the areas of energy efficiency, power generation, heat generation, and energy storage. An example of a program that's currently ongoing, a colleague has been working with a company that's developed a revolutionary new type of compressor, and that company has been funded to carry out design and modelling work and then move on to building and testing a prototype in a university lab. So that's indicative of the kind of project that can run here. Sadly, the last round of EEF9 has recently closed, so there's nothing that can be immediately applied for now, and there may be another round of EEF in about 12 months' time. It really depends on the level of funding available after all the successful promising projects from EEF9 have been funded. A program that runs in my area, the Industrial Fuel Switching Innovation Competition, takes projects starting TRLs in range 4 to 7, and this is all about the development and demonstration of fuel switch and fuel switching enabling technologies for industry to switch to hydrogen, electricity, or biomass, waste, or another similar low carbon fuels. We're currently about a third of the way through the feasibility study phase for the current IFS competition, and phase 2, the demonstration competition, will open in October. And to take part in the demonstration competition, you don't need to be part of the phase 1 feasibility. So this competition is completely open in that respect. In a previous IFS round, there were projects involving the use of hydrogen in CHP plants, hydrogen in glass production, biofuels in glass production, hydrogen in minerals processing. So there's quite a wide range of projects are tackled through that program. And finally on this slide, the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund. This isn't a SICE program, it's run from another directorate within BEIS. But this is really about deployment of energy efficiency and decarbonisation technology. So SICE deals with the innovation element, and the IETF picks up on those and takes some through to at-scale deployment on a number of sites. And an example here from the, I'm not sure if it was from phase 1 or phase 2 of IEEA, but one project there which was successful, ran a good project, very promising savings evolved from that, and that's now won funding from the IETF to take it through to a larger scale deployment across a number of sites. The IETF is currently in its phase 2 of operation. The spring round has recently closed, but another round will open, the summer round, and run from May to September. And then a further autumn round is planned from October to January next year. And during the morning, I'll type the link to the gov.uk pages for that programme if anyone is interested there. If we can move on to the next slide, please. One other programme I want to touch on this morning is the Industrial Hydrogen Accelerator. And this is quite unique because it's a whole value chain programme. So it's looking at hydrogen generation, the storage and delivery facets, through to the use of hydrogen in an end-use industrial application. And it's really to understand how this can be achieved. We've studied parts of this before, generation and storage, and also the use in industry, but we haven't put it together as an end-to-end program. So the scope, it's all about low carbon hydrogen production, and there must be an end use in industry. The program opened for applications at the end of April, and understand so far the interest in this is high. And if we can move on to the next slide, there are some particular peculiarities of this program that I'd like to talk about.
Sorry, Tony, that's your last one.
Oh, right. Slide. So maybe do it from here.
Yeah, we added the funding sources down here.
Right, okay,
that's what you want to talk about.
Yes, it is, yeah. So it runs in two ways. So stream 1 is straight to demonstration. It's grant funded, maximum £10 million per project. And this is really picking up from projects that have been successful in previous BEIS programs. So that's straight to demonstration. Stream 2 is a more conventional feasibility study, followed by demonstration or feed study. And the unique thing about this one is that the Stream 2A, the feasibility, is SBRI funded, Small Business Research Initiative. So there's no need for matched funding here as there is with grant funding. It's a maximum of £400,000 per programme. And subsequently, there will be a Stream 2, which will be a demonstration or front-end engineering design following on. Maximum time available for that will be approaching 2 years, I believe. And then this programme reverts to grant funding at that stage with a maximum of £7 million per project. I'll just remind myself of the completion dates here. So if you wanted to apply for Stream 1, the closing date is the 21st of July, and Stream 2A, the feasibility, closes sooner on the 23rd of June this year. So yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to say this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. So I'm Paul McKinney. I'm the Programme Manager for the IEEA at Carbon Trust. And I'm going to talk to you about what types of projects can apply and how to take part. Just a reminder to pop any questions into the chat, and we've got a session at the end to sort of go through those. That could be for any of the speakers today. Next slide, please. So firstly, I'm delighted that the phase 4 of the IEA has opened today for applications. We had some excellent applications for phase 3. We're looking forward to some excellent ones for phase 4 as well. I think my microphone might have not been in place, so I'm not sure how well you could hear me there. Yeah, I'll just repeat that. I'm Paul McKinney. I'm the Programme Manager for the IEA. Going to talk about what type of projects can apply. We're looking forward to some really good applications, having had great ones for phase 3. The timescales for IEA 4 are laid out on this slide here. So you have 4 months to apply from today. That sounds like a long time. I would encourage you not to leave it for 3 months and then start working on your application. Our experience is it really does take time to plan your project out, find partners, get partners all agreed on their project plan, and then go through the application process and prepare a really good application.
and that includes being able to seek feedback from the IEA team and incorporate that into your application. So please do start thinking about this now, start your discussions now. There's no harm in being early. Once the projects are selected during September to December is the selection, and then the sort of assessment, and then agreeing the grant award. The projects will have up to 2 years, so they really do need to finish by, that should say, December 2024 on the slide, sorry. So they have 2 years to complete, and they need to finish in time. Next slide, please. So this is the important slide. This is how much money can you get? Well, that depends on the size of the organization. It depends on the type of activity you're doing, and it also depends on some rules about whether it's a collaborative application and counts as such. So there's full details in the guidance notes, which are on the IEEA website, and we'll tell you more about that later. But in summary, the small companies qualify as employees with under 50 employees, plus there's some the standard definitions for turnover and balance sheet. Large companies are those over 250, so that defines which of those categories you're in. Then in terms of the subsidy category, this is related to the subsidy rules, which have replaced the old EU state aid rules, and there's full details of this in the guidance notes, but in summary, most of the projects that we're talking about are demonstration projects, so they basically fall within the experimental development pot, which is the sort of bottom set of funding things, but it may be that there are certain work packages within your project that could qualify as industrial research, so you can look at the definitions in the guidance notes for that. And then collaborative applications, for those you'll need to have either an SME or a research organization as part of the consortium, and there are some exclusions for projects that agree to sort of wider than normal dissemination of the project results. So again, there's some details of that in the guidance notes, but a collaborative project with SME involved, for example, can benefit, as you can see on the slide, from higher funding intensities than, say, a single business one. Altogether, we have at least there's an £8 million budget available across phases 3 and 4, and we will have at least £3.5 million of that left available for phase 4. I suspect it will end up being more than that by the time we've been through all of the discussions on the grant agreements for the phase 3 projects, and we'll update you in due course on the total amount available for phase 4 once all of the phase 3 projects are agreed. So next slide, please. I should just say on that last slide, typically the projects end up being about £500,000. They can be anything from 150k up to £1 million, but our average so far has been around £500,000. So I'm now going to provide some more detail on the scope of the IEA and what type of projects are eligible. And then after me, my colleague Lewis from Jacobs will take you through how you can sort of best prepare your application. So all of this should hopefully be helpful to putting in the best application you can. Ultimately, what we're looking for is projects which are reducing carbon emissions from industrial processes, and that could be through reduced energy use or through more efficient use of resources. This is an innovation program, so we're focused on novel technologies, but in some cases, technologies that are already proven can be submitted if they're being used in a new way, and there's technical barriers to that. And we're also focused, so we're focused on energy and resource savings in the industrial processes. So it's not savings in buildings, space cooling, or in transportation. The purpose of the funding is to generate maximum carbon savings in the UK industry. That's the sort of objective of it, overall objective for BEIS. So it's not just about the success of the individual project and that will be beneficial, but also that there's a strong chance of wide replication and there's good commercial potential for the technology as well. And of course, because this is public funding, and we need to see good value for money and also strong project management in order to maximise the sort of likely success of the project. Next slide, please. So I've laid out on this slide a summary of the IEA scope. This is also on our website. So this is divided up into 4 categories. Firstly, there's energy saving. That's probably the easiest. Here, the definition is really a reduction in the number of kilowatt hours used on site for industrial processing. Because it's industrial and things like building fabric outside, out of scope, fuel switching, which is just saving carbon by switching from one fuel to another, isn't covered under this, but is covered under the fuel switching competition that Tony mentioned. In terms of water and waste savings, this could include projects which reduce water use on site or reduce the amount of waste produced, or maybe allow the reuse of waste or water. Where the projects are demonstrated in a water company or waste company, then we're looking for sort of wider industrial replication potential as well. We can also support projects that are resource efficient in terms of their material use. So that could include reduced use of raw materials, recycling or reuse of materials, and potentially the use of lower carbon raw materials of where they're lower carbon in the sort of supply chain, as long as that can be demonstrated in your application. And then the final category on here is digital. This is really just to highlight that we're keen on digital projects. This could be improved sensors or enhanced controls, machine learning, digital twin type projects. We had one of those already.
11. By the time the taxi comes, the lunch
sorry,
will be over.
Someone's not on mute, so if everyone could just mute their microphones, that'd be good. Thank you. Feel free to put questions in the chat. So digital projects are good, but obviously they need to lead to some element of energy or resource saving as well. And they also need to actually demonstrate that during the project. So not just measurement and analysis, but actually leading to demonstrable savings. So the next slide, please. So thank you. Having looked for the types of projects supported, I'll now focus on the technology scope. I think there was a question on this earlier. So the IEEA is technology agnostic, apart from there's a few exceptions, as I've mentioned. And we've been really pleased by the sort of wide range of technologies that have been supported so far and have applied for phase 3. I suppose the key feature is that they're novel, and that's measured through the technology readiness levels. So on this program, we can support projects which are between TRL 5 and TRL 8. And clearly we're looking for them to increase their TRL during the course of the project, and they should reach TRL 8 or 9 during the course of the project. So in other words, the starting point needs to be beyond just lab validation. There needs to be some validation in a sort of simulated or real environment. And the endpoint needs to be an at-scale system demonstration in an operational environment. I mentioned earlier, it might be possible to support a technology that's already TRL 9 if maybe in a different sector or different geography, but only if there's a significant technical barriers to transferring that technology to the sector in question. Next slide, please. So we looked at the types of projects and the technologies. In terms of who can apply the sectors, it's industrial. So the industrial sectors shown here are manufacturing sectors, minerals, also to water and waste where it's relevant more broadly in industry, construction materials, and also data centers, which is a slightly different but in scope as well. The SIC codes on here are just a guide. Really, it's the process that's being undertaken that needs to be industrial, sort of guided by those SIC codes. It may be possible to locate the demonstration. So it needs to be a UK industrial site, but but it may be possible to locate it at a pilot facility if that's representative of deployment at industrial site. But normally there needs to be an industrial site for the demonstration. Next slide, please. Maybe more important than what's in scope is what isn't in scope. So I've listed that on here. We're looking at industrial processes, so not building savings, not lighting, space heating, etc. We are focused, we don't cover on-grid anything that's sort of generating electricity for export, or sort of storage technologies where it's just sort of storing energy for reuse later. Unless that, there might be exceptions where the storage can be used to reduce overall site demand and not just sort of changing the time of use. The renewables is not, we're not looking for renewables, we're looking for reduced kilowatt hour usage. CCUS can be included in the project, but it can't be the primary carbon saving benefit of the project. Just it can be listed as an additional benefit. The same for reducing transportation. And production of fuels is out of scope. There's some exceptions for biofuels where they're a sort of byproduct of a waste processing treatment. So if you're improving the sort of resource efficiency of the waste processing, that can be in scope as long as any sort of extra fuel produced is used on site for reducing the site energy consumption, and it's not for export of fuel or export of electricity generated. So there's more details of those in the guidance notes, and you're very welcome to contact us for any clarifications on any of your ideas. In terms of, on the next slide, please. In terms of the organizations that can apply, typically most projects will have a technology developer, it's often a small company, and an industrial partner, which is often a large company, but not necessarily. Sometimes they're supported by other technology providers or research organizations or universities. So you can form a consortia, but it's a single lead applicant that applies to the on the application form, but all the other applicants, all the other partners have to sign up to the sort of the terms of the competition. You can have subcontractors as well within the project. And as I said earlier, so we're looking for, sort of key to this is that there's a demonstration site in the UK at an industrial facility, or at the very least that sort of replicates an industrial facility and can be rolled out at other industrial facilities. I'm just going to move on to the next slides. Really, I just wanted to bring to life the sort of types of projects that can be supported. So I've just included a couple of case studies from phases 1 and 2. This first one highlighted here, this case study is on the website. We had a partnership between the technology developer called LAT Water and Viridor, the sort of utility water and waste treatment company. And that demonstrated a new wastewater treatment and separation process, which is powered by low-grade waste that was available on the site. And that provided a sort of nearly 50% electricity benefit on the site, and also sort of downstream other savings, transportation and other cost savings. So that was a good example actually of a project which sort of wasn't located as such on an industrial site, but where the technology has wide industrial application. The next case study, if you flick on the slide, is located at a data center in Hull. Data centers are in scope again this time. And this one comprised development of a high performance dew point cooler. So it's a new type of evaporative cooling led by the University of Hull. So this enhanced the performance of the cooling at the site through a novel design of heat exchanger and some other improvements that they made to achieve 90% savings at the site concern, but expected savings of sort of 50% even over state-of-the-art other evaporative cooling technologies. And finally, the next case study, if you move on please, is a company called Evolve, which they were G2O when they took part in this, but they're now Evolve. They partnered with another company called Hydrosist to demonstrate an advanced filtration and coating technology at a Johnson's Laundry's industrial laundry site. So lots of hot wastewater, and they were able to show recovery of about sort of 2/3 of the warm wastewater within that site, within that project. We'll hear from another project later on from the horse's mouth, and all of the phase 1, phase 2 project case studies are detailed on our website. So I think I just have one more slide, just to say that sort of highlight. So what do you do now if you want to take part? So the website is carbontrust.com/IEEA. All of the information you need is on there. I would strongly encourage you, and I'm sure others will say this later on, to submit an idea. There's a form on there when you click on the participate section to submit an idea in advance of making your full application. You'll be asked to lay out sort of who the potential partners are, what idea you've got, what the technology is, what the project is, and our technical team will give you an initial view and then can have a discussion with you about whether it's likely to be in scope, how to present your project in the best way, and then indeed they can carry on supporting you during the application process, including a review of your draft application form. So really do encourage you to take advantage of the support that can be provided, and that's one of the things that has sort of come out from previous participants that they've really valued, and it does mean that we have a number of projects which don't go forward to make an application because it saves time all around, but it does mean we get quite a good success rate for the projects that do apply. So on the website, the first thing to draw attention to you is the guidance note. Everything I've said is laid out in more detail in that. Detailed guidance on the eligibility, what needs to go in the application form, how it will be assessed and the criteria, all of the processes and the timescales, etc. And also details of some of the sort of key rules and terms and conditions. There's also on the website the actual terms and conditions, a draft of the sort of the grant agreement and the actual terms and conditions, which are worth looking at as well. The applications are made through a form which is on the which is linked to from the website, so it's a smart survey form. But you can also download a Word copy of the application, and I'd sort of again encourage you to do that, to use that for drafting your form, sharing it around your partners, making sure you're happy with everything, making sure you know all of the different attachments that need to be added, so project plan and risk plan, etc., and have that all to hand before you actually sort of fill the form in online. Obviously, fill the form in online well before the deadline to make sure that it's in on time before the cutoff. And one of the key attachments is a finance form where you lay out in detail all of your costs by type, so labour and capital and materials and subcontractors, etc., by explaining the costs for each different work package. And that form, again, don't leave that till the end. That's available to download on the website as well. And do get in touch if you have any issues with that. There is a webinar on the website as well, sort of that goes into a little bit more detail about the actual application process. That was a phase 3 webinar, so it might get updated, but it's broadly still correct. So I think that's everything from me. I'm sure I'll be back to answer some questions later, but I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Lewis at Jacobs. Jacobs are the technical support partners for the program. I will also, we're not hearing today from them, but I'll also mention KTN, who are our sort of partnership, work with companies on the promotion and partnership on the scheme as well. So they're also taking part. Yeah, Lewis is going to talk to you more about the sort of what makes a good application and actual, how to increase your chances of success. So over to you, Lewis. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Lewis Wilson from Jacobs. I sit on the technical team. We help applicants through the application process and then later with project management of successful projects. So I'm here to share some application tips. If we go to the first slide, please. Before we get into that, just want to point out some of the criteria weightings that we have and just draw attention to that the higher scoring or higher scored areas are to project and technology overview. So providing a clear description of project and technology and how you manage it effectively to gain a good score. Next slide, please. Okay, so describing the project, one of the main problems that we have is technology applicants are, it's what they're doing every day. They're really immersed in the technology and they're super keen and really want to get the point across at how good their technology is. But one thing that often gets lost is they've got a lot of knowledge that gets taken for granted, and we have to do some unpicking of what the technology is actually trying to do. So anything that can really provide clarity on the technology in your application would be really good. Whilst not explicitly stated in the slide, do consider any really concise process diagrams, annotated diagrams, as you can make attachments to the application. What we're keen to avoid is sending in 300, 500,000 page documents explaining all the research you've done over the last 10 years, because it often doesn't actually help. It's often best to be short and sweet in explaining exactly what your technology does, and diagrams really are a powerful tool to do so. Part of understanding the technology background is understanding some of the story behind the technology. So understanding the journey of how you've got from lower TRL levels and how the project will demonstrate your progression through up to TRL 8/9. This is especially important for projects that start on the lower TRL level, so projects at TRL 5 and 6. Often we see a bias in applications towards the technology itself and less describing the actual demonstration project. But as we just seen on the scoring criteria, it's often as important as the technology itself, the actual demonstration project. So I'd advise to pay equal emphasis to that too. As the projects are innovative and novel and require support for the program to help accelerate them, being clear on what the challenges and barriers are to overcome is also really important. This is all part of explaining what the demonstration is going to set out to achieve, the steps that occur, the development process, and demonstration that removes the barriers and solves the challenges. Next slide, please. Okay, so just on the project team itself and project manager, typically we have 2 to 3 partners, but you're welcome to apply with more. There's project examples where we've had 5 partners in a consortium. Bringing those teams together in a relatively short time period to apply for the program can be challenging, but it is really important as part of preparing the application to explain how the team is going to work together, that all team members are really engaged in the application process and identifying who is responsible for each element of the project. From an assessment perspective, it's about having the confidence that a project can be successfully managed and delivered. It's often less clear about the structure and ways of working outside the technology developer team. The industrial partner is a crucial element in the program. We try to emphasize that they're not just there to host the technology. We see them as a real key part of the project. And how you interact and involve the industrial partner should be really well thought through and clearly shown as part of your application. Lastly, for risk management, there are always standard generic risks, of course. Stronger applications are those that are showing that they have a strong risk management process, but also showing good consideration has been given to risk specific to your technology. And sometimes the temptation is to not explore some of the risks specific to your technology, but we are really keen to understand what those are. Seeing that risk management is well thought out gives confidence that projects, when risks do arise, will be well managed and ensure project delivery. Next slide, please. Monitoring and benefits. So another part of the application is clearly setting out the objectives of success and what you are going to demonstrate, especially relating to the efficiency benefits the project will deliver. Be clear on what the project has to measure and the data which will be required to demonstrate its success. It's important to give consideration to the baseline which the success is measured. The industrial partner will certainly need to be involved. Is there sufficient metering measurement available to measure the baseline, which the demonstration project will be compared against? Project monitoring and verification sometimes gets overlooked as a costing part of the projects, so also take care to go through that too. As well as trying to measure your benefits, step back and consider, so that there might be technical parameters that you want to achieve yourself to prove the next iteration or phase of the technology is viable and successful, but also just really step back and consider what adopters, so what the industrial partner will want to see if they were to take your technology forward. Simple and clear performance data that can be measured. Keep benefits calculation clear, assumptions laid out, and avoid, again, overwhelming us with complex the calculations in detail. Clear summaries of the basis for calculations are best, making it easier for technical viewers to follow and allows us to focus on the actual savings that we're expecting to achieve. And I know we've laboured this last point a few times now, but the best applications have always been those where it's clear the industrial partner has been involved in discussions leading to the preparation of an application. Next slide, please. So again, work with the industrial partners to complete the application. In previous phases, we've got to interview questions, and it's never a good look when the industrial partner themselves are asking questions about the project at that stage. Use the options that we have available to upload documents where appropriate. So, and again, key documents, concise drawings of process layouts, the technology, and then photographs as well are often useful. Just aids with understanding of the technology. Ensure any calculations and spreadsheets are clearly annotated and assumptions clearly marked up. Check the allocation of industrial research versus experimental development. That's often a topic that picks up a lot of discussion. Have the industrial partner or other party not as close to the technology review the application. So someone who's not been immersed in developing your application, get them to take a look. Just picking up on one of Paul's points earlier, we have a technical team available to help support the application and make best use of that. Again, there's no harm in getting the application in early, get your idea in early, and just starting the conversation about your potential application. Thanks very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Eva. I'm the marketing lead for the IEEA, and I'm gonna now cover some of the benefits of being part of an IEEA project. Can you go to the next slide, Sabrina, please? So I know there's a long list here, and I know that pretty much everyone will be thinking, well, there's a very clear main benefit, which is the funding. But we do think from our experience from IEA 1 and 2 that that is not the only benefit. So from an industrial company point of view, there's, as Paul and Sabrina mentioned, IEA projects have a lot of project support. They have the funding, so that really helps de-risk the project, and that allows industrial partners to take advantage of that first mover advantage. And at a time that fuel prices are frighteningly high, being able to install early on a promising innovation that will cut your energy and or resource usage, and therefore the cost, it can be a truly competitive advantage. Apart of this, there are some other soft benefits, such as being able to learn a lot about new promising technologies. It's been mentioned before, but if you do have an idea of a type of a technology that you are looking to test on site, and you haven't found an innovator who's currently already talking to you about this, we have some support to try to help pair you up with innovators. And overall, there's as well a reputational benefit for both the technology developer and the industrial company to be part of a BEIS program that has already delivered good results. And this is the 4th round of it. So if I move to the technology developer, I think that apart from the funding, probably one of the biggest advantages is the acceleration support we offer. So nowadays is quite common for R&D and the programs to offer some incubation support, and the IEA is no exception to that. Our approach is to try to really understand what are the knowledge gaps the developers that are part of the IEA have, and then try to provide a specific support. Typically for projects in IEA 1 and 2, they have benefited from business case strategy support, and even helping them prepare for interacting with innovators, because that's, with investors, because that's one of the things that the IEA can help you with, is to access investor networks. And we've had a few IEA 1 and 2 projects that have received further funding during their demonstration projects, for example. One of the things that companies involved in projects for IEA 1 and 2 have really valued as well is the marketing support. We have been able to secure articles in industrial magazines that are important for their sectors. We've been able to secure speaking opportunities and industrial events, and also provide them a platform through our IEA events to talk about their technology, show the results, which, as Paul mentioned, are very, very good for some of them. And as part of the IEA, we've also created webinar to help them with their social media, because some of the developers were quite new to the social media platforms, providing guidance. And we also review and support on a case-by-case basis. For example, we review press releases or the websites if they have rebranded them, and the case studies that each company each consortium has produced have been reviewed by the IEA and published by BEIS as well, which obviously has that reputational benefits. Something else that I would like to mention, because we just finished the IEA 3 application round, and we had a survey to all applicants to learn what worked, what didn't, how can we improve. And one of the things that has come out very strongly is that they really value the hand-holding support that we offer for the applications. Paul was speaking earlier about all the documents and the webinars that are in the website, but actually what the companies have said they really value is the time to be able to speak one-on-one with Jacobs to prepare the application. And for example, we ran Stakeholder Clinics on the last Thursday of every month that you can book 30 minutes to be able to speak with Jacobs or whoever is the most relevant, be it Carbon Trust or Jacobs, of your needs. If you need to find an industrial partner, if you're struggling with your application. So please do check that out if you are planning to submit an idea and you want to make sure that it's in scope, or if you are already starting to craft your application. And then all of this, between the awareness, the project support, and all the acceleration support we offer, and that's something that's been mentioned by previous participants as well, being part of the IEA can be a real boost to the market confidence that they see in their clients, and a few participants have already secured sales before finishing the demonstration, while others, the industrial partner, has been super pleased and decided to roll it out across a number of sites. So we do think that the funding is obviously a very good benefit of being part of the IEA, but it's definitely not the only one. And I'm going to also mention the potentially secure new IP as well. So if we can go to the next slide, Sabrina, please. You are going to see a couple of quotes from a developer and industrial partner, in which on the left-hand side, Andrew for Matrix Molding is talking about how being part of the program has really enabled them to accelerate the development of their technology to be ready to enter the market. So here, talking about all this support I was mentioning previously, and on the right-hand side, we have the equivalent industrial partner saying how they have been really happy of being a first adopter of the Soniplus technology, which has been delivered very good savings for them, and that they know it will be good for the industry moving on, but also taking advantage of that first mover opportunity that I was referring to. And this is everything from me. I'm now gonna pass over to Simon from Innovatium and Luke from Aggregate Industry, so they can share their experiences while being part of IEA 1 and 2. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eva, and good morning, everyone. My name is Simon Branch. I'm the CEO of Innovatium, who have developed a liquid air energy storage technology. And we put a proposition forward to the Carbon Trust back in IEEA 1, which was in 2018. So that's a number of years ago. So we've spanned, the pandemic and gone through all the challenges that's brought forward. So really, I want to echo a lot of what Eva, Paul, and Lewis have said previously, and talk about our experience of the IEEA and why it's different from other funding rounds that you may see out there. And there's a plethora of funding opportunities, but what I've found, or what the company's found with the IEEA, is it's fundamentally different. And that's in as much as it matches you with the industry partner. So they have a much more hands-on approach to make sure that works between the technology provider and the industry partner. So, I mean, we did an elevator pitch 4 years ago, which we then went through the application process, which was very hands-on, and really refined the proposal that we put forward, which was ultimately successful. So we worked closely with Jacobs at the time, who supported us through the process. And that's fundamentally a different approach from other funding applications that we've put forward. It's very much left to the company rather than a cooperative application. So other things that are different about the project, and Eva mentioned this, is the acceleration support. It used to be called incubation support, but it's now acceleration support. And we found that very helpful. going through the program, and that is as much as looking at getting investor ready, look at your marketing plans and developing the company, because you can get really focused in the technology, because ultimately, you know, we're technology developers, so you know, you really get drawn in, and sometimes the other aspects of the business can take a bit of a sideline, but it's really important to do that, because ultimately what you want to do through the program is get from TRL 5 through to the commercialization, the infamous valley of death that we have to span as technology developers. So we've successfully come through that now, and we've demonstrated technology, but yeah, during the process, you know, the help that's put forward in terms of getting investor ready at the end, because ultimately you come out with a demonstrator and you've got to think ahead of what's next after the demonstrator, and ultimately that involves further funding, hopefully, you know, becoming investor ready and having some significant funding brought in to roll out your technology across the industrial landscape. So I mean, it's been our priority to do that throughout, and you know, going from TRL 5 to TRL 8 is no easy task. But what you find with the IEEA is, you know, with Carbon Trust, I mean, I heard of the Carbon Trust 20 years ago. You know, there's case studies, they manage the energy technology list, so that what I found is they're very experienced. They've gone through this and they've been within industry in depth, so there's a lot they can offer in terms of experience going through the process. There's not a lot they haven't seen in terms of rolling technologies out and bringing technology to the market. So fundamentally, that makes this program a bit different as well. So the application process, from our perspective, again, it was very hands-on, a lot of help from Jacobs, who are the technical advisors, and just that iterative process, which is different, you know, helping you fine-tune, and you know, it's not a, you know, you have your deadline, but you know, if you pass the eligibility and the rest of it and you get brought forward, then you get the opportunity to refine, because ultimately that's your scope of work, and they want to make sure that's as accurate as possible, because let's face it, things change, especially during the pandemic, things changed. So that's another benefit you'll have from this program, is the management of change, which inevitably happens throughout the project, not just from our side, from the industrial partners side as well. So some of the pitfalls of doing a project such as this is understanding. You really need to understand from a technology provider the industrial partners and priority. I mean, they're in the business of making product or providing services, and it's great to work towards energy efficiency, but you always have to be sensitive towards, you know, the client's, you know, main objective, whatever they're making, whatever they're producing, or whatever service they're providing. So it's making sure you always have that at the back of your mind as well, and realizing, okay, you're a means to reduce the cost and reduce the energy consumption, the CO2 intensity, but ultimately they're in the business of making product or providing services. So that's something to be mindful of. And also company size as well. And we've had a great partner in Aggregate Industries, and you know, Luke will speak to you in a minute, but they're a big entity. You know, they're part of the Holcim Group, the largest cement manufacturers in the world, and you have to be aware as well that there's corporate processes that need to be adhered to. So that's when you can lean on the Carbon Trust again, because they've got experience with dealing with large corporates and how you integrate and put an application together and adhere to some of the processes that are required to satisfy corporate governance, etc. So that's something to be aware of as well. In terms of the outcomes of the project for us, I mean, we've successfully closed out a round A investment of almost £1 million, and I'd say the IEEA has been, you know, a key part of that process. So we've come out the other end. We've operated the demonstrator, you know, case study pending. So watch out for that, it's coming soon. But ultimately, you know, we've closed this investment round, which has provided a great springboard for us to really take it to market from there on. And that's a springboard to the next applications as well. So Tony mentioned the EEF, IETF, and the fuel switching competition. So you know, you have this natural progression through the funding process, which just enhances any investment you bring in or any support from the industrial partner. You know, the support's there and it continues and it rolls on. So the IEA is just part of that funding journey. So, you know, personally, I would really recommend the IEA. It's a great program. It's different to any other funding that we've been awarded before. So yeah, I would encourage you all to you know, put an application in, engage with the Carbon Trust and Jacobs, and yeah, good luck. Thanks.
So I'll jump in at this point. Simon's done a great job really of introducing us already and how they've been involved, how we've been involved in this process. So I'm here to sort of give I guess a brief perspective from an industrial partner's point of view on the whole thing. I think a lot of what I was going to say has been mentioned already in one way or another. But it's, as far as a large business like ourselves, as Simon mentioned, innovation is something that we clearly want to do, but can be quite tricky with all the various different hoops that we have to jump through. But the benefits of doing a program like this means effectively a lot of the time, energy, money that's put into innovation is de-risked through the funding that's provided, and the support that's provided by the likes of the Carbon Trust and Jacobs. So we found the process to be, you know, extremely positive and a great learning journey for us. I would emphasize the fact that it is a journey, and for those who are technology providers, taking your sort of industrial partner along on that journey is really important. Both sides need to be really engaged in the conversation from the beginning. When it's a new technology, there's a whole range of things that, you know, the industrial partner will have to understand and get their heads around, and that just requires ongoing communication and understanding. So that's definitely a sort of a partnership approach that has to be taken. The benefits for ourselves, you know, obviously every technology is different and will bring its own benefits. But for us, the PRISM system has got you know, applicable applications across our business and can clearly demonstrate savings. So that's energy savings is clearly an area for us that we want to push into. We're a high energy consuming business, and so we're always looking for those sort of new technologies that can help us to become more competitive. Alongside the practical savings and the funding that you potentially would get as an industrial partner, or your technology partner would receive, the sort of airtime that you're able to sort of generate through these partnerships, I think is really important. Both internally, you know, we're able to demonstrate that we're pushing forwards in new technologies, and that helps to keep momentum on a whole range of other projects that you may be also working on in the innovation space. But then also obviously externally, it gives you that ability to talk about some of the exciting stuff that you're doing, which is beyond the normal day job. So we found it advantageous in a number of different elements there. And just finally, I would encourage you to take part if you're a industrial partner. It's can be a little bit intimidating to go through this process, but I've been impressed with the engagement of all of the different bodies involved in administrating the fund, and that's been a real collaborative process throughout on all different parties. So I highly recommend you putting in an application and giving it a go. And that's everything that I think I can add into the conversation.
Thank you ever so much, both Simon and Luke, for that endorsement, I suppose, of the programme, but also, you know, highlighting what's involved and the learnings as well. We've been through. There's one more sort of short session after this on the sort of networking opportunities, but I'm going to just spend a little bit of time on the questions. So do feel free to put any questions in the chat. Thank you to everyone who already has. The first one I'll just cover is that we were asked if we would be sharing the presentation afterwards, and yes, that will be loaded up onto the IEA website after the event. I've got a question there's a question here for Tony, if he's available, about the hydrogen accelerator before a number of ones about the IEA, and that's asking if there's support on the scoping and the project partnership on the hydrogen accelerator.
Hi Paul, yeah, I've just checked this out with the program manager of the IHA program, and the short answer is no, there's no specific support provision at the bidding phase for either stream 1 or stream 2A, but there is a potential, if you're successful at stream 2A and you want to go into a demonstration or feed study downstream in 2B, there is the provision within that phase to do that work and reach out. I've also put this response in the chat, and in there is a link to the gov.uk page for the IHA program, so full details and the guidance documents for both stream 1 and stream 2A are available on that page.
Great, thank you. And then we have quite a lot of questions on the IEA, which I'll just cover off. So the first was whether I mentioned the sort of average project size, average project grant is about 500k, and there's a question just on the grant size relative to the project size. So we offer grants from 150k to $1 million. You'll have seen from the sort of funding intensity slide earlier that typically the funding intensity can vary from about 25% for a large company not part of a consortium, up to sort of 60% for smaller companies, and even more if there's some industrial research components of it. So so typically the projects can be up to 2 million and the grants can be up to $1 million. Sometimes the funding percentages, sometimes there's bigger projects apply and our funding percentage is less, but that's yeah, that's a sort of typically the project size is often sort of about double the grant size. The next question was whether multiple sites are in scope. Generally not. Generally we're looking for the demonstration at a particular single site. There may be scope for something that's been demonstrated at 2 separate sites. Feel free to discuss that with us, but we're not looking at something that's a more efficient motor that's going to be put at a number of sites around the UK. We're looking for the significant savings on an industrial site that can then be replicated at other sites. Is funding only available in the UK was one of the questions. So we expect the majority of the activity to be undertaken in the UK, but there are it's definitely okay for overseas technology developers to apply. Some of them have done and taken part. The important thing is that the demonstration the demonstration is in the UK, and that, as I say, the bulk of the work and the activity is related to UK. But yes, we very much welcome technologies that have been developed internationally being demonstrated in the UK. There was a question about whether the project can be led by a university. It can. Obviously, make sure that it's important to sort of make sure that the skills and experience and expertise is there to be able to manage an industrial project, and so you know, build that in and make sure that we're looking to make sure that the industrial partners and the technology developers are very clearly sort of involved and part of the project. But yes, the university can lead the project. And then there's also a question asking if the project can be led by the industrial site maybe involving multiple technology developers. So yes, that would be okay. Most of our projects are led by the technology developer. They've got a lot to gain from it, but we do have some where the site has applied to be the lead partner, and that's fine as well. There's a couple more questions coming in. Someone said that they'd submitted our idea and not had a response. Apologies for that. They would normally been a bit. There's been a lot of work going on recently on the sort of assessing the phase 3 applications, but we would normally try to get back to you within a week on your idea submission. So apologies that we haven't, and we will. I'll follow up specifically with that one and any other ideas that have been submitted after this event. Make sure you get a response, and then once you're in contact with us, we keep the dialogue going with you. And we also had a question asking from someone who was unsuccessful on phase 3, asking if they still need to supply an expression of interest for phase 4. No, I think you can just get in touch with us directly now and continue the discussion through the application support process for phase 4. More questions are probably for me to handle. Is there, can the test site be a university campus? I think that's unlikely, unless it was a data center at the university campus. It's unlikely to be representative industrial environment. There might be pilot facilities at a university which could be eligible. So do get in touch with us to discuss the sort of particular opportunity. But that's, I think that one would be unlikely. Thank you very much for the questions. Sorry if there's any that we haven't got to. Do continue putting them in, and we'll come back to anyone afterwards if we haven't answered it today. I'm going to hand over to Sabrina. I do notice that some people have been sort of advertising their what they can offer or who they're interested to talk to through the chat. That's fine. We encourage you to do that, but also register as well on the Meeting Mojo platform, and you can put a bit more detail in there and connect through there. So I'll hand over to Sabrina to close the event.
Great, thank you, Paul. And I'm just going to use the last couple of minutes we have just to provide a brief overview about the networking opportunities we have created for you. So, and I would like to spend a minute or so highlighting this one particular slide to all the industrial companies that have joined us today. And want to highlight some of the possible project ideas that we have already received, which are still looking for an industrial site to demonstrate their technology. So if you're looking to accelerate your decarbonization journey, have a look at these example project ideas. We actually have received a couple more than this, so this is not an exhaustive overview. Maybe take a screenshot, you can look at them after the event. We will also share the slides following. And if you want any further information on about this or how to get in touch with the technology developer that sits behind those ideas, just please contact us, and we're happy to assist with any matchmaking. There's also the possibility to sign up through the Contact Us form on the IEA website if you want to be kept in touch. And so, yeah, I think we have now reached the end of today's event. I just want to leave you with a brief overview about any other steps you can take now to get closer to an IEA application. So once again, please have a look at our network platform, sign up and register to it. We have already quite a few other companies on the website. Take advantage of the different information fields that you can fill in on the platform, especially the one about talk to me or ask me about, sorry, forgot now what it's exactly called. So people know exactly what you're looking for, what you can offer. So yeah, this is for both the technology developers and industrial companies. Feel free to sign up now to the website and organize some messaging or one-to-one meetings via the platform. If you have a project idea, feel free and please submit them through the IEA website. As mentioned previously, this will go directly to our technical team for some quick eligibility checks, and it helps us to keep track of what we can also offer and advertise possibly to other companies if you require any of the matchmaking activities and networking opportunities. We also offer stakeholder clinics, so we can talk directly to members of our technical teams about your possible participation in the IEA. They take place always on the last Thursday of each month. You can see the next dates here on the slides. And again, sign up is via the IEA website. And if you haven't already joined the networking platform, I just want to provide a very quick overview about the registration process. Doesn't take you long. Just ask for a couple of information about your organization, your company profile, and if you are looking for a demonstration site or if you want to offer one. And once you have signed up and registered, you can edit your profile to provide a little bit more information about the skills and technologies you're looking for or that you can offer, what sectors you want to target or the sector you're in. Just help provide as much information as you'd like. Just helps always with identifying possible partners. And yeah, with this in mind, I just want to say thank you again for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day and goodbye.